Hello and welcome. My name is Tony, and you are listening to the second installment of Tau Beta Pi's The Best Podcast series, the podcast where Michigan engineers can share their stories. Today's story is Cub Scouts Day, and we have five amazing guests here today to talk about what they do and to organize such an amazing, impactful event for our youth. To start off with my guests, I have next to me Dr. David Martell, who has been a part of Michigan Gamma for 12 years now and an advisor since 2018. So, David, would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, my name is David. I've been involved with Cub Scouts Day largely since the beginning of the event. It started a few semesters before I joined the chapter in winter of 2011. It's been an incredible journey, seeing the youth grow, seeing the um, putting on the event, but also within the chapters, people take on more leadership roles, become more involved with, and it's been real key elements why I being involved in TBP, and I'm glad to see becoming much more interested in meaningful leadership.
All right, thank you so much, David. Our next guest is Jacob Miller, who is our current graduate vice president.
Thank you,
So,
Tony. So, as he said, my name is Jacob Miller. I am a senior in chemical engineering. I've been working with CSD for past 2 semesters now, so 2 events. And for the past 2 semesters, I've been one of our module leads covering the bridges module. I really just enjoy being able to help with it. It's a great event.
all right, thank you, Jacob. Next, we have Drew Boughton, who is our events coordinator.
Hi, I'm Drew. I am a rising senior in mechanical engineering, and I joined the Cub Scouts Day team this past semester out of necessity due to some conflicts at the time for some other coordinators. But as service coordinator, it's been a um, really awesome kind of part of my past semester, and I'm really looking forward to continuing to stay involved with Cub Scouts Day and making sure that the event runs as well as it's always ran.
All right, thank you so much, Drew. Next up, we have Riley Garlaskis, who was our president last semester, and now he's currently an advisor and the K-12 officer.
Thank you, Tony. My name is Riley. I have been involved with Cub Scouts Day as an egg drop module lead for the past 3 semesters, and ever since joining TBP, I've had some kind of involvement for the past 4 semesters with that. Looking forward to keeping up with the work in the future. I'm a senior in chemical engineering.
All right, thank you so much, Riley. And last but not least, we have Colin Davidson, who is one of our executive vice presidents.
Yeah, so thank you, Tony. I'm Colin. I am a rising senior graduating next semester in chemical engineering. I've been involved with Cub Scouts Day for the last 4 semesters, so 2 years now. Twice as just a regular volunteer, and then twice as a CSD project leader, wanting to take initiative, being on the leadership team, and being involved running the event and helping set up what beautiful Cub Scouts Day becomes. So I'm looking forward to talking about it. Thank you for having me, Tony.
Yep. Thank you so much for being here, Colin. So, let's start with this. So, David, could you please tell us more about what Cub Scout Day is and what exactly we do?
Yeah, for the Cub Scouts Day event, we bring over in some semesters over 120 scouts, more recently around 40 to 50 scouts to the North Campus Electrical Engineering Building. We host a number of packs from around the state of Michigan. At the event itself, we teach the youth various engineering principles. We have several different modules associated with the event. First module is the egg drop, where you teach the scouts how to build an egg dropper so that they can survive the egg drop from the various floors of the EECS building. We have a catapults module where we teach them some of the basic principles behind projectile motion, and we have them build a catapult and try and compete in a competition to see who can project it the furthest. We have a circuits module where we teach them the basic principles of Ohm's laws. We have them work with snap circuit kits. They learn about some of the math behind various circuits that they work with. We have a bridges module where they build various bridges, like suspension bridges. They type of bridge that crosses a gap, and then they compete to see whose bridge can support the most weight.
All right, excellent. So it is from my understanding that these modules are designed to help the scouts essentially hone their problem-solving skills and get them interested in engineering. Well, so I'm going to actually ask Drew first. So, what do the scouts do in the circuits module, and what do you think is some of your favorite interactions with the scouts?
So in the circuits module, as David said, the scouts get to work with snap circuits kits that even I interacted with that, or I played with quite a bit as a child. And the kits, they have over 300 different circuits that you can make, which is really awesome to see. The scouts choose their circuits and to see them make it, see them have to problem solve and follow instructions, and just get to explore some of the some of the cool stuff that you can do with them. And it's always awesome seeing there are these fans on the circuits that are that attach to these motors that can be powered in a number of the designs. And it's always fun seeing them fly off from the circuits after they reach enough high enough velocity. And it's always awesome because I was kind of really interested in the circuits just like them when I was a kid, and I think it's definitely really valuable to expose them to such creative grounds. But yeah, so really cool module that we run.
All right, thank you, Drew. So very cool module for people who are interested in like um, electrical engineering, especially. All right, so we also have catapults. So, Colin, could you please explain more about what the scouts do at catapults?
Yeah, so at the catapults module, first they listen to a short presentation by the module leader, kind of inform them about what catapults are, essentially just saying, hey, we're trying to launch a projectile here. What's the best way to do that, right? And after that, they split up into subgroups to build their catapult. It varies by semester, I suppose, but generally they're going to be given a set of connects pieces, which basically are, Tinker Toy style items that you can build in many variety of different ways. They're also given a rubber band as well as a spoon for their sort of catapult bin, and then a projectile, which also varies, but usually perhaps it's an eraser or something. They're just given this pile of materials, right? And they got to form their groups, generate ideas, brainstorm, and then go into the testing phase, just trying to figure it out. It's kind of amazing to watch them sort of learn. They're like in 5th grade only, but they're still able to just come up with these great ideas, even in small groups of only like 3 people. You just kind of let them loose, give them a little bit of guidance on their catapult, but in around 20, 25 minutes, they end up building something, and then we bring them down to the testing floor where they can launch their projectile to see who can launch the furthest using their catapult, and it's pretty great to see. They get really excited down on the floor. We have this whole like arena, you could call it, set up where they just try to launch this catapult, and really it's a joy to watch them build, test, and then sometimes succeed, sometimes fail. That's the whole point of the module, right? But yeah, I think it's definitely a great experience for the kids.
Does anyone here know actually like what the record for the catapult? Like how far has the team gone with their?
I feel like David has the most experience here, perhaps since he's been to the most Cub Scouts Day events. In my experience, I think I've seen a launch maybe around 12 feet.
Wow.
And it's just like a few plastic pieces and a rubber band, so it's not like I can go that far. But still, 12 feet's not too bad in my opinion. For just 20 minutes, you're just told to build something randomly. As a 5th grader, you're still able to make that happen. Quite amazing.
It's amazing how like 5th graders like they're so young yet they're so creative. It's great to see what the future of engineering really holds. All right, so I'm gonna move on to bridges now. So Jacob, could you tell us more about what the scouts do in that module?
Yes, of course. So for the bridges module, we give them a bag of basically plastic straws, roughly 10 straws, and a certain amount of tape. Normally, roughly about 5 to 10 feet of tape. And their goal is to build the bridge that can hold as many lacrosse balls as possible. So then we test it by creating some form of artificial, basically chasm. They have to cross, the bridge has to cross, and then use basically a setup to drag the balls so they're coming down off the bridge and see how many it holds up before the entire bridge collapses. And it's truly inspiring to see, as we've heard from everyone else here today, the creativity these scouts come up with as they're building these things. Every semester, it feels like I have to modify the rules just a little bit because one scout or another finds a way to basically break the entire event. Some creative way I never would have thought of that basically makes a super bridge. And it's always exciting to see what they come up with. They really have some really great designs.
Could you elaborate on the super bridge?
So there's different ways that they are intuitively coming up with these mechanical properties that would allow these bridges to be much stronger. For instance, the classic one being the wider your bridge is, the stronger it's going to be. So some scouts end up building basically a giant plate. Other ones, once again, work out cross section, bigger cross sections mean stronger bridges. The classic one that they love to make is a basically just bundle of straws taped all together. That bridge tends to be very, very strong, but doesn't look much like your standard bridge. And so we want to see if they can get even more creative from there. So every year it seems like they come up with some new thing I need to add. It's also really fun because we use it as an introduction to a classic engineering concept of the blueprint. Basically the idea that, hey, maybe we should write down what we're trying to do, make sure we are making a plan, working our way through this in an intelligent, say, engineering style. And so seeing what they come up with and them trying to draw it out on paper and then transform this paper into final bridge in practice truly is really inspiring.
All right, thank you so much, Jacob. So we're going to move on to the egg drop event. Arguably, this is probably the most exciting event for the Scouts, as they love cheering when eggs fall from balconies. So we're going to have Riley elaborate on that more.
Yeah, this one is definitely the event that made me fall in love with Cub Scouts Day, hands down. It is the marquee event of Cub Scouts Day. The egg drop is really what brings the crowds in, and it's what we really love to put on. So I think egg drop is probably the most visually exciting way to show off these concepts of just really basic energy ideas. You have potential energy up at the top of the balcony and an egg that is under threat to be pulled down by the potential energy, and all culminating in one massive eruption of kinetic energy on the ground. And that's quite the impressive splat from the eggs. And what we can teach the kids is that there are many ways to dissipate all that energy as work throughout the flight of the egg. And if you build a dropper that takes advantage of the ideas of drag and some of those principles, cushioning to dissipate that energy as well upon impact, you can actually turn what seems like an impossible challenge into a very simple and very feasible thing. And that's the beauty of engineering. That's what we really love to instill in the kids that we see and have a chance to work with. They are so brilliant that they can take something that looks impossible, make a delicate little egg survive this huge drop from the second or even the fourth floor of our big, tall engineering building onto this hard floor. It's an impossible challenge, but engineering, we love to say, makes the impossible actually feasible. And through the intelligence and some of the design of these kids and what they can dream up in their groups, and through the engineering design process, they can actually make this challenge a completely doable thing. We really emphasize the design process in the egg drop. We have, of course, a very exciting build phase where we introduce them to the ideas of many constraints. There are material constraints and time constraints and many things limiting their ability to succeed in that challenge. But if they work around those constraints and find ways to innovate, despite the ways in which they're constrained with their design, and of course, then they test their designs out, which always gets a huge amount of excitement out of the crowd. Who doesn't love the instant thrill of seeing whether your egg survived or not? It's pretty clear if you've achieved success in this module. And finally, going back and talking through it in groups, because this is group work and we get to actually talk through and break down our process. Think about what worked well from other groups, what didn't go so well, and think about how we change things in the future. I think that's an important part of the design process that we love to emphasize in the egg drop. And to me, it's the perfect module. It brings all those things together and really gives the kids a thrilling experience where they don't even realize they're learning a ton.
Excellent. So I believe the Scouts make parachutes of some sort. So what do they get to make parachutes with?
Yeah, the Scouts definitely, many of them do make parachutes, and it's really fun to see the ways they dream up to make these parachutes. We give them many items that have a suggestively high surface area, let's say. in their kits. We give them a paper bag, plastic bag, often some kind of other big flat objects, and it's really interesting to see what the scouts come up with. Many even put balloons on top, try to create even more drag and more resistance. And it's really always a joy to see what the scouts will do. We tell them they can use the entire bag and all of the contents therein, and even the things holding the contents together, and the ways the scouts pick up on that little detail. And often we'll use the packaging of the equipment we give them in the design itself is nothing short of brilliant. I really love to see that.
Excellent. Yeah, I know. I think like seeing or hearing the kids cheer like really is indicative of how fun this event is for them. All right. So to all of you, like, what do you think is like the most valuable impact of Cub Scouts Day?
I mean, the impact really is just getting them to realize how much fun they can have in an engineering environment. How much fun it is to see this design you thought of in your head and bring it to life right in front of you and see how well it's gonna work.
I guess to sort of expand upon that, I would break it down into three categories. One being passion, which is what Jacob was just talking about. Maybe perhaps that's the most important one, right? Is getting them interested in it. If they really enjoy it, they're going to want to pursue engineering in the future and really make a positive impact on society, on themselves, right? A few other things that were pretty centered in the event. Passion, one. Two is going to be communication, right? So the whole day they've got to work within groups with other people. Being an engineer, being an adult, really, to function effectively in any job, I guess you need to be able to communicate effectively with other people, know how to illustrate your own ideas in your head, sort of get them out of your head, in the real world, to make something work, make your catapult work, make your bridge work. Sort of along those lines, with communication is going to be collaboration. So teamwork is very important to sort of work as engineers in this world. We always work in teams, never on our own. So learning that from a young age, I think, is really valuable. Some kids are naturally going to be good at that. Some kids definitely need to work on their collaboration skills. You have to obviously get the whole variety, some strong voices, some quiet voices, but the idea is to start young and sort of build this idea from the ground up and sort of get experience, get experience, because it really is the best teacher. So
Very well said, Colin. Thank you for your input.
I'll bring up another point that I think is particularly valuable with respect to Cub Scouts Day, and that would be mentorship. We have, in our group of volunteers putting on this event, some of the most highly qualified engineering students at the University of Michigan. And in addition to their ability, they have more passion than any group of volunteers I think I've ever seen. People that sign up for this event to volunteer there are committing to spending their whole day for the Scouts and for nothing but the Scouts. This is an exceptionally motivating group that really wants to make a difference in the Scouts' lives, and even just by positively impacting their day at this event. This is all a reflection of the volunteers' passion and how much they are desperate to share this with the Scouts and kind of share the story behind why they decided to pursue engineering and they enjoy this discipline so much. So having these incredible mentors, these incredible role models all throughout the day that you get to meet and talk to and work with, even as peers, for the Scouts is a very valuable experience, and I am very happy to be able to provide that to the Scouts because I think that's a source of mentorship they deserve and can really grow from.
Very well said, Riley. Thank you so much. Actually want to ask David, since you've been working with Cub Scouts Day like the longest out of all of us, like what really motivates like you? Like what has gotten you coming back every single year?
Yeah, thank you, Tony. It's a really good question for me. I am an Eagle Scout, so I have a very strong connection to scouting. I've spent a lot of time as an engineer. I've spent a lot of time pursuing various engineering topics professionally and personally. I also, I wouldn't say never had this opportunity, but I've had a lot of similar opportunities, especially in my youth, for engineering related tasks, and I want to give back to the community in the way that I know best. Right, I like to teach people how to engineer. I'd like to teach them how to do project management, and then of course there's TBP, which is a very dear organization to me. Being able to work with volunteers at the organization mean so much to me. They're an incredibly motivated, talented, and hardworking group of people. I really honestly have not seen a similar group with similar attributes really anywhere, and I'm very grateful to be part of this experience and giving back to the community.
All right, thank you so much, David. Yeah, it's really great to see like someone so passionate about like getting like our youth so excited about engineering, and really, I'm sure you've made a huge difference in a lot of people's lives, in a lot of young kids' lives. And so one more thing that I wanted to ask all of you also is what are some of your favorite interactions with the Scouts as well? Yes.
I'd have to say I have a bit of unique perspective on this one. I've had the privilege of dropping eggs from the second and fourth floor of our East building for quite some time now, and I will say there is nothing quite like seeing a sea of screaming children as you hold an egg dropper in your hand, and they just all want you to release that thing and let it go. The ability to look at all of those faces staring up at you in amazement, in awe, as you know that you are about to do something that's going to really be a memory for them. It's going to stick. That is a really special thing. So I just love some of the still shots we get from the kids looking up just in awe at the egg drop module in particular. The energy the kids bring is absolutely unmatched. I've done a lot of volunteering, worked at a lot of events in my life. I have never seen a group as loud and as energetic as the Scouts and even their parents. The energy that this entire group brings is something truly special, and just having that interaction with all of them, where I get to see them at their most excited, high energy moment, is something I don't think I'll ever forget.
All right, thank you, Riley. Anything else that anyone wants like to add?
Honestly, just I want to basically repeat what he said. Is some of those moments when you're testing, for me with the bridges, as I'm about to drop one more lacrosse ball into the bag under their bridge, and they're all just standing there waiting to see what's going to happen, waiting to see. And if it survives, them congratulating each other, being so proud of themselves. And when it finally does fail, the acceptance that, oh no, we're done. But just the entire time, they're so engaged. They're locked in on that bridge and trying to figure out what is going to happen next. Will their bridge survive one more, or is it done? It's so exciting to watch.
I've had the pleasure of seeing quite a few interactions from kids, and it really never gets old. We talked about egg drop, talked about bridges. One of the catapults modules, Drew mentioned earlier how we have these fans that the kids set up, and it's just a motor, really. You turn on the circuit. If the circuit has enough power, the motor spins fast enough, and the fan flies up off the circuit. These kids learned that if you add the number of AA batteries to your circuit, if you maybe double or triple them, you can increase the power, increase the speed of this motor. And one kid learned this, added 6 sets of batteries to his circuit, and that fan was flying off the circuit. Man, his face was just that smile was as big as as big as big as it could be. And I don't know, it was great to see. Really enjoyable, just the joy on his face. I could also talk about egg drop for a while too. I've been up there like Riley has on the top floor, and seeing a sea of people just filling the entire Eeks atrium, staring up at you. 100 people focused on you. All those kids' faces just in awe, mouths open, gaping mouths. For the last egg drop event, we award the groups who survive the second floor egg drop to bring one of those scouts up to the fourth floor to help drop the egg dropper, right? Unfortunately, for both safety reasons and height reasons, they can't see over the edge of the balcony. So we as volunteers need to drop it for them. When you do this, you can look back. Well, A, you can watch the dropper, but B, you can look at the kid standing next to you, and he's just like totally, fixed on you. Your reaction, is my egg gonna survive? And just, I feel like that really encapsulates the event. So in tune, so engaged, so interested in the event, and just all of his emotions riding in those 3 seconds it takes for the egg dropper to fall to the floor. Really sort of sums up the event.
Well, thank you to David, Jacob, Drew, Riley, and Colin for being here today and taking time out of their day to speak in this podcast. These 5 have worked many hours to ensure that Cub Scout stays goes well every single semester, and it makes such an amazing impact on all the scouts that do decide to come to the event. All right, thank you for listening to the second installment of How Beta Pies is the Best podcast series.